What's up guys, Jimmy Miracle here. I'm going to talk to you about portrait head construction. Basically, if you want to draw or paint the human head, you have to be able to sculpt this little simple maquette. This is the Loomis head. It's pretty basic. These are some sketches I did from this maquette using some markers and pencils. So our goal is to understand the portrait. It's a Houdon head. We're basically using this ball to construct the basic planes and construction of this simplified skull. So you gotta do whatever you can. This is the skull color coded, the top part. It fits inside of this, but you need to understand this before you get the complexity of all the anatomy. And before you get, I've got all these planar models over here, but these are the next step after this. These are like level 2, level 3. This is level 1. So we're gonna talk about this. This is it. I got the Asaro head, this plain head. I got another plain head here. This one's made out of plaster, but you get the idea. Basically, we're trying to memorize an archetype. This one I got off of Etsy. It's a little bit better proportions than the Asaro head. The Asaro head, as you can see, looks like the top is kind of chopped off. These side by side. But the nice thing is it's got this screw in the bottom, so you can put it on a stand and rotate it. This one doesn't have a screw, so you kind of gotta, to get different positions, hold it up, use your hand, stuff like that. Let's start sculpting one of these. Let me show you how you can make a little simple model like this and use it for reference for drawing front and side plane of the head underneath the canopy of the jaw construction. So I've got a lump of clay here. The first thing you gotta do, I got a big old 20-pound bag or 50-pound bag of clay for basically 15 bucks, and gotta make a ball. I'm trying to make a ball, something kind of like this. That's how we start. I'm using clay and a butter knife. So to make one of these, we're gonna start with the ball. Oops, I just made a little cut on the side of that. So let me put it right in front of the camera. So use your whole hand. I'm just doing like a softball size ball here, using your thumbs. This might take another minute or so. You can spend a solid 10-15 minutes trying to make a perfect ball. Basically trying to get some of these lumps out, using my thumbs, rounding around. The main thing is the symmetry, not necessarily the polish of the ball. So you can polish this thing for hours, but the main thing is getting it symmetrical, and we have an intuitive sense of the ideal symmetry of a ball just written in the fabric of our brains. Our DNA knows what a perfect sphere is. It's an ideal, just kind of embedded within us. So we are using this ideal, this geometric construct of a sphere as a simplification of the human head. And once we have constructed this sphere, I am a painter draftsman, so I am trying to represent this in 2 dimensions on a flat plane. But in order to do that, you need to understand it in 3 dimensions. So how do we know if this sphere is symmetrical? We feel it, we touch it, we look at it, we look for irregularities, we sense if there's lumps, if it's lopsided, and another tool we can use is drawing center lines. And basically find the exact center, drawing all three axes, the center lines of the sphere will help me determine where the asymmetries are. Sculptors use center lines on all three dimensions when they construct any human form, because the human figure, the human face is bilaterally symmetrical. So we have to understand basic construction lines. If you're building a house, you are not winging it. You spend a lot of time laying the foundation, and you throw symmetrical lines to locate the exact center of a square. This is a similar idea. We're doing this with the human head. Sculptors, Michelangelo, when he's sculpting in marble, is not just winging it, but is using center lines of construction to find what is the distance of certain features. Basically, once we have this ball, so the next thing that we're gonna do is the Loomis head construction of the ball. Mine's looking a little bit funky, obviously. Look at that in the camera, that's no good. So this center line needs to be redrawn. It seems like a simple thing, but once you start trying to construct these center lines all the way around a round object, you'll see that things can get wonky pretty quickly. So you need these center lines. And then we are going to basically, from this center line, visually, if the form was right at eye level, we're going to divide this space into thirds. So 1, 2, 3 on all axes. 1, 2. So this space needs to be the same as that space. I'll do it looking at my sphere, and I'll keep talking to you here. So I'll show you what that's gonna do. Basically, the cranium is not a perfect sphere, but it's kind of a tapering sphere, more like an egg. And we're just simplifying as a sphere with the sides lopped off. That's what Andrew Loomis does. So once you get your sphere, you're drawing this circle on the side plane. This is the side plane of the head. And taking your butter knife and lopping those little wedges off the side plane. So now look, the sphere's got the side plane lopped off. I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. I'm gonna divide it into thirds on the vertical axis and the horizontal axis. By thirds, I mean thirds on either side of the center line. And on that last third, I am drawing a circle on top of this circle, on top of this sphere, and I'm lopping that off with my butter knife. So I lopped off 2 sections of the sphere. Let me read. And one thing you're gonna have to constantly redo is redraw the center lines. Constantly redrawing, reassessing the center lines in all 3 dimensions, X, Y, Z axis, vertical, horizontal, and the depth of the sphere. And I'm gonna actually draw the center line through the side plane that I just lopped off, wrapping a center line all the way around both axes. So I'm creating a symmetrical object with center lines cutting through. This is the foundation of the whole human head, this geometric construct. So we need to get this solid, symmetrical, even. I mean, I can spend more time. Now that I have the center line, I can see more irregularities on the sphere. I can use the side of my knife and bend the form away from the center line. The center line is a great tool that is telling me where the perfect middle of the axis of this form is on the surface. These are surface center lines, and together all three surface center lines help me feel the entirety of the form. If I cut a straight down and drilled through the side of this, I should hit the exact middle of this form. So it's getting a little bit rough, but that's okay. I don't care about surface polish. I want symmetry and clarity of these center lines. I'm gonna redraw them again, and then I will show you what the next step is to take this into this. We're gonna be building a jaw plane on this sphere, and there's the bottom of the jaw. It steps down like a little stair step, and actually the bottom of the sphere is also sliced off at that last third division. That's kind of what a skull is. If you lay a skull down like this, I'll show you, it should, so my jaw might need to come down a little bit. See how the skull lays flat? This form might need to be readjusted a touch, but this is the idea that the jaw kind of creates I'll cut into it. I'm basically creating a maquette of the skull. Let me keep working on this and place the jaw onto this form. Get some more clay. Oop. So if I'm a painter, why am I spending all this time doing sculpture? That doesn't make sense, right? Wrong. I used to think like that until I saw the light, which is that sculptors know form. And the only way to really comprehend 3D form is through sculpting it. If you only do two-dimensional illusions of form, your understanding will be limited. So all great painters and draftsmen studied écrochet. They studied the anatomy of the human form in 3 dimensions, not so that they could be sculptors, but so that they could know the form. So I am putting this jaw plane on, dropping it down from the center line and building another, basically here is the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 to the bottom of the sphere, and then we add another third to get us to the bottom of the jaw. Look at the Loomis books, study this for yourself, learn this archetype construct. If you are representing a adult human with average proportions, you need to know this archetype so that you can see where your individual model differs from a general average. A baby has a smaller jaw in relationship to the sphere. You have to understand the rate of growth from infant to teenage years to adulthood of the jaw plane or the jaw mass in relationship to the cranial mass. So we're looking at facial mass, which is jaw, zygomatic, tooth cylinder, cranial mass up here. So we have three kind of units woven together to create this facial plane, and then this sphere with the center lines that we started with represents the cranium. Let's keep going. You could spend a long time just trying to sculpt a perfect Loomis head. I will try to keep this video under 20 minutes. I've got 4 more minutes left. I am going to try to rapidly speed through this. So I'm carving a front plane, side plane, top planes. In order to do that, you need to create edges of the planes, not thinking of the sphere as a nebulous form, but finding corners. Box logic, Steve Houston calls it. And finding the corners of the front and side plane and exaggerating them for the sake of this constructive maquette, so you can have it clear in your mind. Nobody in real life is that clear, but we are creating simplifications of form in order to, so use your thumbs, use this thing, redraw the center line, refine the front and side planes, spend a bit of time on this bottom plane of the jaw. Everyone ignores that. Find where the bottom of the cranium relates to the bottom of the jaw, how it wraps up the center line, going all the way around the head, connecting all the way to the front. So as you can see, if you're just working 2D, two-dimensionally, you're losing a great depth of understanding. So at this phase, I've got a center line. I'm gonna redraw the center of the ball, which is representative of the brow ridge, or brow line. I got that one a little high. Redraw it lower. So we're reestablishing these proportions and trying to locate front and side plane. The whole head tapers this way from the width of the temples. These are symbolic of the temple here, and then front and side plane bending around. Rework the symmetry. Honestly, you could spend an hour. I think I spent an hour on this one. You need to be able to do it quicker than that, but I mean, there's no hurry with trying to learn or study. All right, so I'm gonna lop the bottom third of the sphere off, which is here. You could be very careful and measure it out, which like I did on this one. For this video, I'm gonna kind of go a little quicker. All right, so we're starting to develop the jaw and the cranial mass in relationship to the facial mass. There's a bottom plane here. Refine the symmetries. Make sure the left and the right are related. Make sure that the jaw, let me show you a little bit about the jaw. If I had a skeleton, basically, I could pick it up over there. Right here is where the jaw starts turning into the chin. So there's a plane change, there's an angle break. So now this simple sphere and jaw plane, facial plane, is starting to get a little bit more specific, and you keep working that idea from the simple to the complex. I'm gonna keep chiseling away at this for another minute and then call this video. So you can use the butter knife to go across the form this way, refine So you're just doing this from imagination, from construction, and then you're trying to find this when you do portrait drawing from life, and even from your imagination, you find this simple construction underneath the individual you're working from, and then you edit and select information that you see from the live model. All right, so on the side plane, let me show you real quick. Basically, you keep redrawing these lines to find your axes. You're gonna lose them, re-find them. The jaw line. So there's the side, and then here, what happens is that actually the side becomes a plane right about there, and then this is a transition plane before you hit the front. So you got side, transition / diagonal plane, front plane. Do that on both sides. Find the transition plane. Basically, this is the masseter on the edge of the jaw. And if you look from underneath, again, that's where I showed you the angle break on the jaw plane. I'll leave the video there. Sculpt one of these things. I'll show you the bottom view, side view, front view. Look at the Loomis head in his books and try to get this fixed in your mind. Good luck. Hope this helps you, and have a great day.